Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Happy Friday to you. Hope you had a great week so far. We made it to the end of the week. And of course, we're going to take a look at Bitcoin, kind of see how it's shaping up for the potential weekend, what that might look like. We're also going to look at traditional markets, dollar index, a handful of other small things that factor into the overall situation that we're in right now. Okay, so we'll take a look at that and much more. If you are new to the channel, not a financial advisor, love teaching people to trade. I hope you can learn something here today. My goal is to help you become a better trader. Once again, the whole purpose there is just to help you kind of be more self-sufficient in your own right. So of course, feel free to check that out. CryptoCache.tech is a site, link in the description below. We're taking tons of profit here recently as well to the downside for Atom and Bitcoin. And it's a really awesome experience, honestly, to be able to share those signals with my community. And obviously for us all to kind of learn and grow together too with my trading academy and just the community aspect of things. So be sure to check that out, really awesome. Thank you so much to all my current community members for just being just a great part of my life. Thank you. So taking a look here, let's jump right into the dollar index first of all. It's not really doing too much, but it is kind of sort of on the recovery here today so far in the first hour. So not a whole heck of a lot to really say, but the bottom line is that with this kind of recovering here, it's the inverse pairing effectively for Bitcoin. Bitcoin was going up and now it's going down. Inverse applies here for dollar index. So if this continues to maintain this upward trend, we should expect Bitcoin to lose its trend line and continue downwards. Again, no guarantees there, but that's a possibility. Another thing that's kind of influencing it, you could say, is that the NASDAQ and S&P 500 have both had really good days over the last 3 days. However, today, of course, so far, once the market opened, it peaked out essentially and has been coming back down ever since. So S&P is definitely not in a great position right now. I wouldn't say it's terrible by any stretch, but what had happened is if you take a look here, these gaps had been filled. And now that they're filled, we're getting rejected off this price point. It's like you can almost draw a line right here to see that that has been filled now. And now that it has, the price is going to continue to probably progress lower. Again, no guarantees there. I haven't spent a lot of time analyzing the traditional markets in a while. I generally understand how they work. And at this point, I can tell you that with them kind of coming down, there is a correlation between Bitcoin and traditional markets. There's a great chance we could see further red from Bitcoin because of that. Once again, just something to think about. Another thing that's also relevant and important is all the profits that have been locked in, so to speak, since July 13th. Okay, so I mean, you imagine like from bottom to top, pretty close to about a 25, 27. No, actually, if we go all the way to the top, we're looking at about 28% from bottom to top in the last, what is that? That's 9 trading days. Okay, so there's 9 days worth of meat on the bone. Do you really think they're just going to let that sit out there and not take their profits? Most of the whales are probably in the green, and they're obviously going to likely continue that. Okay, so again, just kind of throwing it out there. These are all things that are kind of adverse, so to speak, to the price increasing for Bitcoin, but just some things to recognize. What we also want to take a look at, of course, is this trend line, which you can see here. In fact, let me just go ahead and make it a little easier for us. Remove the moving averages, and we can kind of see on the 4 hour here, probably a little bit better to see, that we have this ascending type of trend. Obviously, we recognize that we were outside of standard deviation here recently, got rejected. That being said, we've hit 1, 2, 3 bottoms here, so to speak. So what that does confirm the uptrend and that it should likely continue. But if we do have confirmation that this inevitably will break below that trend line, I would think that would be a decent shorting opportunity. That's kind of what I'm looking for here. So what I'm wanting to see happen is for the price action to continue lower, honestly, so we can continue to short and kind of take some more profits, but also prepare and add to our position at a lower price point too. But to me, with all the profit left on the table here, it just seems sensible that Bitcoin is going to continue to reject to the downside. But we don't have any guarantees there. Tentatively, here's the thing we need to recognize. We are seeing lower highs so far with this turnaround here. Okay. And if the traditional market continues its redness, we could see this continue lower. And if we do break this most recent low here at about 22,600, I think that's right there at 22.6, then that would essentially be creating lower lows, and that would confirm the downtrend. We'd essentially have a reversal here, and the price would be coming down. Okay, so again, generally that's the concept of what we're looking at. How does that factor in? Honestly, we'll see. But generally speaking, it looks slightly more ominous. Another reason why I say that too is because we got, look at this. I mean, you could argue this is a double doji candle, and perhaps even a triple if today closes close to where it's at right now. And basically it shows there's a lot of indecision, and the likelihood of the price action continuing higher would be lower because it's coming from the opposing direction. Okay, so that said, not a lot of fantastic things here, but let's see if there's anything positive. First of all, we've got room between 50 and 70 on the RSI, so there's another reason why the price could continue lower too, because it would come down potentially to test 50 at on the RSI as a support level. That could put us closer to the 22,200 range. So we'll see when we get there, of course, if we do. But honestly, RSI is really not telling us too much, just kind of saying, hey, we're more so bullish and we're slightly overextended, but not too far. We still have more room for growth if it wants to continue to go higher. All right. Again, fair to Midland there, you could say. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the moving averages here. And this is something that's interesting so far. Excuse me. We are seeing right now the 50-day cent moving average holding in place. We can see it's gotten tested a couple of times, but generally speaking, holding still fairly strong. Today's candle wick almost touched it, right around 22,000 again, 600. So 22,006 is a very strong point of contention. If we lose that, there's a great chance we'll see further downside. But the good news is here is that the 50-day SMA is effectively holding. So even if we were to lose 23,000, so to speak, and come down to 22.6, then we'd see potentially a bounce off that level. Okay, there's potential for that as well. So 22.6 should be a somewhat of a tentative support level based on the 50-day set moving average and the 4-hour time frame that we've already looked at, where we had the 4-hour candlestick closures yesterday at that point. Okay, we'll take another look at it here in a moment, but generally speaking, this is not terrible, also not great. Okay, so again, we're at this kind of turning point, and when we have situations like this, I try not to get too crazy with my signals, or just in general try not to take too many trades, because again, Bitcoin dominance is kind of being weird right now, and when Bitcoin's doing well, alts are kind of suffering, and then the inverse can happen sometimes too. And then there's always a weird lag where Bitcoin does poorly, Bitcoin dominance goes up, and no altcoins are really doing anything at all. So it's an interesting thing in the way in which things are going. There's obviously a lot of adjustments to liquidation prices depending on the overall sense of things, but what I'm getting at here is that this is, I would say, it's 50-50, honestly. And there's no true confirmation we have so far. A lot of things are really kind of pointing down right now, but in truth, we're still above that key level support for the moment. Now, again, I have mentioned previously, we want to make sure to kind of wait a good week or so of confirmation above that level before we really start getting too crazy with our long positions. Because longs are kind of getting wrecked recently. A lot of overextended longs, liquidations are happening all the time, and you just want to be careful with a long position right now. I'm not saying you should short your shirt off, but you should also be careful and patient too, right? So the best trade, in my opinion, is the one you do not take, and you want to make sure to wait for the right timing. Okay, so again, confirmation is kind of what we're looking for. A closure below 23,000 today would probably be a pretty firm indication, but specifically 22.6 or lower would be absolutely a confirmation for me. Again, just some things I try to look for. So take a look here at the 4-hour. Let's go ahead and just kind of summarize with some TD sequential, kind of see if there's any type of sequence here that we're seeing. And we can see this here. So, okay. So here's kind of what Bitcoin has been doing in the past. And this is why we shorted here recently and took some profits from Bitcoin, because we were coming up to a 9. And it just makes sense to, when things are overextended, and once again, you can see the RSI was peaking out at 70 here as well. That's kind of like a double confirmation for me that we're heading in the opposite direction. The price is going to reject out. It also stopped at 24,000, which is a previous key level resistance back in, I think, December of 2019 or 2020, roughly. And it was been a while since it's tested that level, but that is essentially right where we were at previously. Okay, so again, regardless of that fact, what I'm trying to get at here is that the 9 that we see here for TD sequential really just gave us that indication it's going to come back down. We hit a 5 here recently and a reset now up to a potentially 6 or 7. So at this point, if just say the price goes sideways for a couple more hours, we could get some good enough consolidation to effectively be able to continue higher. Okay, again, if we stay above this trend line, we think we're going to be in good shape. But if the price comes down, kind of just hits a 8 or a 9 and then continues to close and basically stays going sideways here, that would not be a good continuation. I would say we've lost our momentum, our momentous uptrend, so to speak. We have to reevaluate things. Well, again, we'll take a look at this again tomorrow to kind of see what's going on. But generally speaking, at this point, we don't have any definitive line in the sand. It's going to go either direction, but it still feels more downside than up. Just in the overall sense of the way the traditional market is shaping up, dollar index is up. There's a lot of things of that nature. Looking at the RSI though, again, still in very similar shape to the daily. We're above 50 and under 70, so that's pretty much a good place to be. because again, it's been a while, but we have been above 50 on the RSI on the 4-hour for roughly a week and a half. Okay, so it's been up there for some time. It would make sense if we were to lose that. So again, if we were to kind of continue lower here, then we'll inevitably be under 50 on the RSI. So again, we get a closure under 22.6 and the RSI is under 50 on the 4-hour. That's pretty much a green light to consider a short position. You may even want to consider one now. Honestly, it does look like it wants to continue lower. Granted, we don't have full-on confirmation yet, but again, there's no guarantees, right? But I would say at this point, we're looking 60-40 as a likely to the downside. And that's just kind of again, how it looks so far. Let's see if the 1-hour has any indication, because the cloud is really the confirming factor for me in most cases. We're still above the cloud right now. Okay, so again, this kind of confirms how things are going right now. So if we see here, you can see the Ichimoku cloud essentially working ascending with this trend line. You can also see this here, of course, this little bit here, this little dip. So the price were to come in and travel into the cloud and then inevitably break below the cloud, that would be confirmation that we're looking for, because the lagging span would likely be free and clear of price action by then. Okay, so again, that's kind of what we want. That would be the confirmation, I would say, truly, to summarize everything we've seen here so far, even though we're looking red for the moment. No guarantee is going to continue lower, but if we go sideways and over for the next 24 hours and we just naturally break below this trend line and the cloud, that seems to make the most sense that we want to take a short position. Okay, that to me is confirmation. So again, we're not quite there yet. You want to get in early, that's perfectly fine. I would recommend, if you're going to consider a short position, consider maybe getting in now and then of course having a second entry target, maybe closer to about 23,006, 23.7 right here, because then if it comes back up and gets rejected, you'll get filled and then you'll average your price up to the 50% way, halfway mark, and then inevitably have a better position on the way down. I love taking trades right at the point in which I feel it's going to break, and if it continues in the opposing direction for me, I still get filled at a higher or lower price point, and it averages my price up or down effectively. So different schools of thought, of course, here, but it does feel a little bit more so like downside is potential, just based on the overall sentiment in the market right now. Again, no guarantees, but these doji candles are not giving me a lot of confidence in an upward direction for the moment. Now, you could argue that we did have that little handle pattern that I was talking about earlier with the cup and handle, but it got rejected quite a lot earlier than the previous increase. So not super beneficial in that sense. Okay, so again, we'll see what happens. Looking forward to it. Obviously, be patient, be cautious, be careful. Try not to just jump right in because you feel like you're missing out on anything. Trust me, this will be here. The market will be here again tomorrow. All right. So I hope that you learned something here today. Please, of course, comment below if you have any insight. Love to hear from you. Thank you again to all my current community members as well for just making my life a better place. And ultimately, I just want you to go into the weekend here with, I would say, just be cautiously optimistic. I know I think I say that often, but in all reality, we don't have any confirmation it's going to go up or down. It's consolidating at support, but it's also giving us a lot of reversal signs too. I would not be surprised if they try to, crank the price down here in the near future. It does make sense considering. All right, well, I hope that you found benefit and this all worked out favorably for you. Thanks again so much for joining me here. We'll see you again tomorrow if you want to become a better trader. Once again, CryptoCache.tech is a site, link in the description below. I look forward to working with you. Have a good one.